Hello, so today we are going to analyze a game of chess legend Mikhail against Gurgendais here. Bukuti Gurgendais, I don't know how to pronounce that. Mikhail is playing with the black pieces here, and here we get the move d4. After this, we get the move knight f6 here. After knight f6, we get c4, and here we get c5, the Benoni defense. We get d5 here, and after this move, we get e6, the modern variation of the Benoni here. The Benko Gambit is also possible. It's actually what I play here. But here we get e6, we get knight to c3, e takes d5, c takes d5, and d6. After this move, we get knight f3 and g6, e4, bishop g7, and the move bishop to e2. We get castles, and a move rook e8, pressuring the pawn here. We get knight d2 here, defending the pawn. Even though it moves the same piece twice in the opening, it's just to defend this pawn here. And here we get knight to a6. After this, we get the move rook to e1, and now we get knight to c7. Bishop takes is possible, but after takes, first of all, you're giving up the bishop pair advantage, and Mikhail likes to attack. That is one thing. Secondly, you open up the b file along with the open bishop here. So it's not really a good thing to do here. This isn't really a good idea because you're opening up the b file, and there's a bishop here to pressure it in the future. But anyway, the idea of knight a6 is to play knight c7. We get rook e1, knight c7, and after this we get the move a4. And usually in the Benoni, you usually want to go a6, b5 here, a6, rook b8, b5. But now if you go a6, which is a big mistake, now they can just go a5 here, which is a very nice move here. And the idea is essentially, you fix their pawn structure here. So now the b pawn is a permanent weakness. And additionally, the knight can go to c4 and then b6 here. And then the knight's just going to be outposted there, and you can't really do anything about it. So, yeah. Instead of going a6, Mikhail goes b6, potentially with the idea of rook b8, a6, and now b5 here. But after queen to c2, Mikhail decides to change plans here. You can try to pause the video to see what he plays here. He plays a move knight to g4. And even though the usual plan involves a6, rook b8 and b5, because Mikhail is an attacking player, he goes knight to g4 here. And even though the engine doesn't like it right now, the best move here is just bishop takes g4, and after takes, just go knight to c4 here. And essentially, another idea of b6 I forgot to mention is that if you ever go knight to c4, there's just bishop to a6, right? And then you're gonna trade off this piece here. And let's say queen c2. Now if you go here, this trade isn't really good. Like, let's say takes, because there's nothing to fight this very strong knight on c4 here, supporting e5 in the future, and there's much better here. So queen c2, delaying knight to c4, because then bishop a6 will come in. Mikhail just goes for the offensive and goes knight g4 here. And yes, while bishop takes, and knight c4 was the best way to proceed, White did not play this, or Gurgen is I don't know how to pronounce that name. It's confusing. But after queen c2, knight g4, the move h3, which is a big blunder. And you can pause the video to find the key move that supports the idea of knight g4, why Mikhail even played this move in the first place. Because now Mikhail plays the brilliant sacrifice of knight takes f2. A typical idea. This is a common tactical pattern you'll see in attacking chess here, and that is a knight on g4, e4, whatever, e5, g5. Basically, a knight that hits the f7 or f2 pawn. This will be a very common tactical pattern. This is just like the Greek gift, where the bishop taking on h2. And the idea is after king takes f2, which is a blunder, we'll get into that later. Essentially, the idea is to try to bring the king out, and then you're gonna try to attack here. It depends on the position, but right now, after king takes f2, we'll get into it later. The best move, let's check the engine here. The best move by the engine is knight to f3. And the knight is trapped here, and after this, probably knight takes h3, takes, and here we do have some interesting compensation. If you try to go rook f1, which is worse than knight to f3, then after takes and bishop takes, this is even worse for white because now there's no knight as an extra defender. The rook is hanging. Queen g5, queen g2 is a big threat. The bishop is going to d4. So yeah, this is worse. So knight f3 is the best continuation here. And after this, the engine just says bishop takes c3 here, and then let's say after b takes c3, basically you take this pawn. And even though you're up 2 pawns here, white is still slightly better here according to the engine, because I guess you have compensation along these weak dark squares. So yeah, definitely interesting. Black could have played on like this, but after knight takes f2, black decided to accept the sacrifice. And now, Mikhail, just following attacking principles, just plays queen to h4 check. Bringing the queen into the attack, bringing a piece with tempo. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? Now, if you go king to f1, which is what was played in the game, if you go king to g1, then that's just a free rook over here, like this. And if you go king to g3, king to f3, then actually, this is just terrible because, first of all, you're bringing the king here, but just bishop d4 here. And you're getting cooked here, like, let's say you try to defend it with g3, there's just queen to h5 check. If you go here, then I just take. And if you go here, then there's just mate in 3 after bishop takes. Let's say the king goes to the h file, and then a dovetail mate with the bishop. So, king to f3 is not a good move here. King to g1 is not a good move as well. If the king goes to e3, again, the bishop just comes to d4. And you're getting cooked this time. Because let's say the king goes here, then probably just bishop to a4. a6 is good enough to win this game. And if you go g3, then once again, the bishop is coming to d4. And you're getting mated eventually here. Like, let's say you go here, I just take it with check. If you go here, I just mated 1. If you go here, we transpose into that line with king to f3. So, after this, the only move is king to f1. And now, you can pause the video to see what Mikhail plays here. The move is bishop to d4, once again bringing a piece into the attack. Now we're threatening mate in 1, and the only way to stop it is knight to d1, here defending mate. And this is the key moment of the game. The best moment, in my opinion, is my favorite moment in the game. And pause the video to try and find the nice, brilliant move that Mikhail played. So, if you thought with bishop takes h3, and after takes, then we just mate, and that's just a free pawn. After bishop takes h3, there's the move rook a3, and the position gets very complicated from here. It's not so clear how to continue for black here. Suddenly the engine says 0.4. Let's say the bishop drops back to f5. Interesting, because you're threatening mate in 1 and you're trying to win the e4 pawn, I guess. I don't know. Then there's just knight to e3 here. Yeah, and suddenly the position is very complicated. So it's not so clear how to continue from here, because the engine is still saying black is slightly better, but, at the end of the day, white is up a piece, and it's not so clear how to checkmate from here. So, bishop takes h3 is the move, or instead, the move that simultaneously takes his pawn and prevents rook a3 is a move. Queen takes h3, sacrificing the queen. And now rook a3 is impossible because then you just have mate in 1. And additionally, if you take, then you have a beautiful mate with the bishops here. I think this was this is a checkmating pattern. I forgot the name. I think it was like Boded's mate or something. I forgot. Yeah, but you know, I know this mating pattern. I just forgot the name. And after queen takes h3 here, the only move here to save the game here is bishop to f3, because once again, if you go like knight to f3, you just get mated. So basically, white has to play this move to create an escape score for the king. And while queen h1 check is attractive, after king to e2, let's say you go bishop a6 check, you just get knight c4, and after queen to h4 here, knight to e3, it's not so complicated how to continue this game, because everything is somehow defended here, and even though white's king is definitely not the safest king ever, and black's pieces are so active, once again, they're down a piece, and it's just similar to that rook a3 line earlier, after like rook a3 here, and then bishop f5, and knight to e3. Once again, a very similar position here, and Mikhail doesn't go into that, so instead Mikhail plays a key move here, queen to h2, which is a very good move. Great move, by the way, because the idea is that now knight takes d5 is threatened here. Like, let's say rook here, knight takes d5 simply wins the game on the spot, because if you take, once again, you get mated and you open up the d file. Basically, that's the idea. Now queen h2 threatens this move, knight takes d5, and you get the move knight to e3. First of all, to close this file, second of all, to defend the pawn more. So a very solid move. After this, Mikhail Tal, just following some attacking principles here, just goes f5. Attacking. And actually, you can't take with the knight. I mean, you can't take with the pawn here, because if you take with the pawn, then you're just hanging. Everything is hanging here. So f5, and basically you want to take next, so we just get knight dc4 here, maybe pressuring this pawn, but that doesn't really matter. We just get e takes f5 here, and now we open up the f file, and after bishop takes e4, we get bishop a6, pinning the knight to the king here. After this move, we get bishop to f3, and here Mikhail Tal decides, okay, I want to activate this rook here on a8 by putting it on f8, but how do I do that? Rook e5. Rook e5. In the future, maybe the rook can go to h5 as well. But the idea is that, first of all, this isn't hanging because of the pin. The idea is basically that the rook is pressuring this d pawn, and you'll see how important this is later. We get to move rook a3 here, just bringing the rook to defense of the knight. And here we get a rook a e8 instead of f8. The idea is to set up a battery here and to threaten a very nice sacrifice after bishop to d2, which is a huge blunder. Once again, you can pause the video to solve the problem here. Move this. Knight takes d5. Another sacrifice. And the idea is that if you ever take with the knight, then this is just mate. One of these two moves is mate. Because the idea is you open up the d file and then checkmate the king here. Like this. With the bishop. And you can never take with the knight, meaning that actually, in reality, the pawn only has one defender, and it's the bishop. If you go bishop takes d5, then I can simply play rook takes d5, and you still can't take. Because that's the purpose of rook a e8. It's to bring a rook into the second rook into the e file, so that after the first rook leaves the e file, then we still have a checkmate. That's a very nice idea. So after rook takes d5, we get king to e2, and after bishop takes e3, rook takes e3, we just get bishop takes c4. And essentially, you can never take this, because then I just take this and you get mated. And also, by the way, in this position, if you take like this, then you just get mated. So yeah, rook takes e3 was forced here, and then you just take here, and not queen takes c4. Queen takes c4 wasn't played. Actually, white just resigned after bishop takes c4 here. After something like, let's say, king d1 here, black is just completely winning. Like, they just have a 3-pawn advantage here. Excuse me. And basically, white's just getting cooked here because of the 3 extra pawns. Additionally, their king is very weak. So after bishop takes c4, white just resigns. So definitely a nice attacking game by Mikhail there. It was very interesting to see, instead of the usual a6 b5 in the Benoni, we get the unusual attack with knight to g4, and then after h3 just sacrificing the knight. But my favorite sacrifice was obviously the queen sacrifice on h3, with a key idea to prevent the rook from going to h3, because if you go bishop takes h3, then now rook a3, and suddenly the position is not clear, bishop f5, and then knight e3 here, and essentially the position is very complicated, and it's unclear how to continue. So, that is the end of the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and bye.